Partly because of his mullet, but also because of his attitude. And so I thought he'd be a good subject, and we did some research. We found that Life magazine photo, and I think as soon as we saw it, we knew we wanted to do the movie. So we contacted Walter, who put it all together, and he was very open to doing the story, and he helped us find some of the people. So he gave us a list of names, and then Mike called about 3,000 people to find them.
This actually is quite beyond belief. I don't think I really realized this was going to happen. But I want to give you an interesting perspective on this. This actually really is only the beginning of examining the history of video game playing, because video games are becoming so big, so monstrous, so widespread, so much money involved, so many people, so much technology, that it's going to become so big that the future is so what? What words am I looking for? The future is going to be so big that the future is going to be looking back on these moments 1,000 times more than what this movie has looked on. Because you guys are pioneers. What's being done nowadays by like Ken and Michael is just really the first step of examining the history of video game playing. All the people who are connected to Twin Galaxies were the true pioneers. They were the first video game fanatics. They were the first video game stars. They were the first video game competitors who could be considered hardcore gamers. Now there's millions of them. But in those days, there were only a few dozen who were hardcore enough to really, get on a bus and come to Twin Galaxies. It's great that they did this story because, I don't feel biased in saying this, but the Twin Galaxies story is the story of the birthplace of organized video game playing. And these guys wore that story, so I think it's incredible. I have to introduce one more person who you guys don't know about. John. Well, anyway, the man they're waving is the co-founder of Twin Galaxies, who has never been interviewed, never been photographed, and hardly anybody knows he exists. But he came here. However, because of his uniqueness, those who do know he exists really know he exists.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, he's talking about if you haven't come yet, there's an arcade at 333 Main Street. We have all the old games. We're set up for free play. Just stop in today and tomorrow. You can play some games and play with some of these champs.
Comment before these guys talk. I actually brought some old posters from the early days of Twin Galaxies that we're going to put together in mailing tubes and give away as prizes to people who get high scores or something on different games. So I am very excited to announce that I am retiring from video games. And, maybe after this weekend, just trying to finish the book and get because I do music, and I also write science fiction novels, believe it or not. And so that's the stuff I want to do. I don't want to run around and care about who got the highest score on whatever it is. There's been thousands of games,
Yeah.
just ready to go do something.
Doesn't actually show up though. Yeah, it does.
To the gamers, how do you all feel about, more recently, gamers like Thresh and Fatality who have made very, very lucrative careers out of this sort of renaissance in gaming?
I can say that definitely, I was 16 when all this was happening, and that was my dream, was to be a professional video game player. And so it's kind of interesting because today the players have gone far beyond what when we were, as I said, all of our friends, or me and Billy and Darren and Todd, when we used to talk and go over this, we couldn't imagine how the internet and kind of the online phenomenon, and that's really made this much more economically viable. It's made it a bigger community. All we had then were telephones and airplane tickets, and that was the way that we communicated. So there probably were people out there that didn't know about the scoreboard or found out about it later. Today, the kids are professionals. I have a 5-year-old. He plays video games. By the time he's 16, if he wanted to, these guys can play 24 hours a day. So So there's professionals, there's money. They're really complicated, the games. I hate to say this, but it's a lot easier to stick a quarter and play one of those older games, because these new ones are just a little bit beyond me. So anyway, I'm not afraid to admit that.
I want to stick up for Ben and everybody else from the early 80s, because after seeing that group of people and seeing the modern players, that skill set that they had back in the early 80s is the same skill set that Thresh and Fatality are using today. However, these guys were born a generation and a half too early for them to have the opportunity that's now available through the modern technology, through the internet, and especially through modern funding from sponsorships. Funding didn't exist back then. That's why it really didn't take off back then, because there was no money to fuel the development of leagues and teams and stuff like that, other than what Twin Galaxies did out of its simple little budget from its arcade. So they were the stars back then. They would have been the stars today, but they were born too early. Just simple as that.
Lisa, our cinematographer. Right.
We shot all the modern day footage on HD on a Sony F900. And I think if we had had the option to use the smaller HD cameras, we might have done that, because we had to lug a lot of stuff around to a lot of different places. My husband was on the shoot with us. He was our camera assistant and helped with the lighting the whole time. It was a very small crew. And this was a very special movie for us, as we got married in the middle of it. It's a really special movie. I love the fact that it brought together so many people that really love gaming from all different areas, and we just had a really great time making it, so thanks for coming to see it.
I guess I gotta say my little piece here too. When I had not seen the movie before today, not even a piece of it. So it's very interesting to see how we video gamers from 20 some odd years ago were portrayed. And I guess I was very glad to see that maybe I didn't come across as normal, but I was more normal than some
Well, I mean, the simple answer is just
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I don't know if people noticed, but at the end of the footage, a good part of the music was Walter playing and singing his music. And probably not that many people know it, but Walter's a very gifted singer and guitar player. And that was his music at the very end and during some of the films.
We started collecting early, but most of it comes from personal collections, which is kind of nice to see that they care enough about that time period that they keep it all themselves. So the production was about 4 months, and then we were, acquiring and just finding pieces that, somebody would send and say, hey, can you use this? Up until, we finished cutting. So I mean, maybe a year,
Can you repeat the question? What is your plan with your documentary?
She asked what our plan was. We hope that as many people can see it as possible.
Don't forget to vote.
Please be kind to the moose. She kissed him in the ass, don't you think?
Yeah, well,
stick your tongue.
I got a perfect shot.
That's a good shot.
Hold on, let me get that. That's good.
If it would really freeze, he could pull it back. That would be very nice. Got some super glue.
John, you okay?
I just do